Forks, Washington, a.m. It all started with a dull sound, a surveillance camera installed by an amateur hiker, one of those motion-activated ones that automatically upload footage to the cloud. In the recording, a clearing in the forest, a figure moving so fast it's just a pale blur. Then something else, a giant wolf, larger than a horse, crossing the frame, chasing that figure. And then the scream of a human who entered the scene at precisely the wrong moment. The file went viral in no time, first as a joke, then as a conspiracy theory, until a second angle appeared. Another witness had filmed the same scene from a nearby hillside, same time, same place, double confirmation. By the time Bella saw the video for the first time, it already had over 3 million views. Edward had found it that morning, his face tense. "Do you recognize the place?" he asked. Bella nodded, frozen. "It's the clearing where we used to go before getting married." Alice appeared beside them, eyes white, shaken by a stuttering vision. "Too much chaos. I can't see past 2 weeks, and I don't like what I sense." The first TV station to cover it was Canadian, the second, American, the third, international, CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera. And then came the turning point, a special report with video analysis experts confirming there was no editing. The UN called an emergency session. The words unknown entities and possible supernatural threats were spoken in hushed tones, but the fear was already seeded. Online, users started connecting dots. Why is Forks always cloudy? Why do the Cullens never go out in the sun? What if the disappearances in recent years weren't accidents? Charlie Swan was questioned, first by his chief at the station, then by federal agents, then by news cameras on his own porch. "Do you know anything about non-human creatures in Forks? What do you think about the Cullens? Where is your daughter? Why doesn't she age anymore?" Charlie denied everything, until he couldn't anymore. Bella visited him one night, Renesmee asleep in her arms, and without words, she showed him what she was, her golden eyes, her cold skin, her speed. And Charlie simply said, "How long have you been lying to me?" The Volturi reacted like ancient empire kings would, with blood. Felix and Dimitri were sent to eliminate witnesses, erase evidence, silence journalists. But it was already too late. The truth was decentralized. Millions had seen the videos, thousands had downloaded copies, and some governments began experimenting. In Eastern Europe, vampires were captured and tested in secret labs. In North Africa, clans were wiped out without trial. In Brazil, state-funded human hunters began roaming the jungle. The Denali Council was attacked by a covert military force. Only Kate and Eliezer survived. Garrett was publicly executed in Moscow, suspected of being an unidentified creature with superhuman abilities. In Forks, the Cullens lived in their sealed house, with reinforced windows and escape routes ready. Jacob and the wolves patrolled the perimeter. The entire pack had relocated there, breaking all territorial rules. Seth, Leah, Embry, all stood watch. Bella trained remotely with Zafrina, expanding her shield, now strong enough to block even thermal drones flying over the forests. Renesmee had stopped going outside. To her eyes, the world was no longer the same, and then came the ultimatum. Surrender all non-human residents of Forks. If not, it will be considered an act of hostile concealment. You have 72 hours. Aro contacted Carlisle that very night. The conversation was private, hidden from humans. "We can't silence the world," Aro said, "but we can redefine it." "You want to negotiate with them?" Carlisle asked. "No, I want to remind them who they should fear." Carlisle pressed his lips. "If you choose war, we all lose." Aro smiled. "Then propose something better, before Caius does." The 72 hours began to tick. The human world was split: protect or exterminate, integrate or control, accept or destroy. The Cullens had to choose: run, fight, or sit down and talk. And for any of the three, they would need allies, even if those allies were their oldest enemies. 72 hours later, the countdown reached 0, and the world didn't explode. Not at first, because Carlisle Cullen didn't choose to flee, nor to fight. He chose to speak. An emergency summit was held in Geneva, organized by the United Nations. Aro arrived unannounced. Carlisle was invited. Jacob attended as a representative of his kind, and Bella became the first vampire to appear publicly before cameras. Her speech, brief and calm, went viral within minutes. "We are not myths. We are not monsters. We are families, daughters, fathers, protectors. We do not seek worship or slavery. We only ask not to be burned for being different, not again." But the balance was fragile. Meanwhile, Caius had prepared his answer. A global offensive, coordinated attacks to erase key cities and send a clear message: vampires do not negotiate. When Carlyle learned of it, he flew to Volterra, alone. There, he found Marcus, seated before the fire. "Where is Caius?" he asked. "Where he's always been, Marcus, in the last century." With help from Alice and Zafrina, the Cullens infiltrated the facilities where Caius planned his offensive. Felix and Dimitri refused to participate. Chelsea, for the first time, broke a bond forged by her gift, blind loyalty to the Volturi. And when Aro arrived, after seeing what Alice showed him, he stopped the war. With a phrase no one expected: "Darkness gave us the world, but perhaps light will allow us to keep it." Humans reacted as well. The scientists who wanted to study Renesmee were removed. A joint committee was formed between species, the Forks Accord. Vampires could coexist if registered and renounced hunting humans. Werewolves would be recognized as defenders of border zones under protection. The secret would no longer be mandatory, but coexistence would be. Charlie Swan was invited to speak on national television. "Did you know your daughter was one of them?" Charlie looked at the camera with a calm only he could fake. "I knew she was different, but I also knew she was more human than many who carry warm blood in their veins." Years later, Forks remained cloudy, but there were no more hunts, no more fear, just long looks between neighbors learning to live with new truths. Renesmee attended a special school for hybrid species. Jacob walked her there every day. Bella and Edward, at last, could walk the streets without pretending. They weren't like everyone else. They never would be, but they didn't have to hide it anymore. Volterra changed. Aro no longer ruled from the throne, but from a library, with Carlyle at his side. Marcus vanished among the rivers of Greece. Caius was never seen again. The secret no longer existed, but peace did, not perfect, not permanent, but real. And as the world kept turning, in every corner where darkness once ruled, one memory remained. It was not blood that saved the vampires. It was love and the courage to tell it all.